Was Banksy's small boats protest at Glastonbury offensive? Taking your calls on this. Now, the street artist has claimed this stunt as his own after a black dinghy, there you can see it on your screen there, with mannequins strapped on, was launched across a Glastonbury crowd at the weekend. It was designed to imitate, of course, one of the small boats used by asylum seekers when crossing the British Channel. There it is, you can see it on your screens, a sort of crowd surfing over the top of the crowds there. Now, the Home Secretary, James Clevely, called the stunt vile, and he says that it trivialises the deaths.
There are a bunch of people there joking and celebrating about criminal actions which costs lives. People die. People die in the Mediterranean. They die in the Channel. This is not funny. It is vile. It is a celebration of the loss of life in the Channel.
How do you know it's not a commentary on your inability to tackle the situation?
I am determined to break the criminal gangs.
Now, a spokesperson for the band Idols has said that they weren't aware of the stunt until the gig, but the song it was launched during is known to condemn a right-wing immigration policies. James, do you think it was an offensive stunt?
I don't think it was an offensive stunt, but I think it was a crass stunt. But I think it's symptomatic of, I suppose, a government that has said that they want to stop the boats and hasn't. Inevitably, Mr. Clevely is going to come out with some very strong words about it, and he's going to talk about the way that artists, I suppose, demonstrate, and Banksy has a long and historic track record of doing so. But I do think it is crass, and I do think, you know, at a festival, when people are there and they're listening to pop music and they're doing all that sort of stuff and dancing around and on God knows whatever substances, I mean, frankly, I just think that the whole thing is just tasteless.
He called it funny. I mean, do you think it was designed to be funny? He kept saying in his interview, it's not funny, people die in those crossings.
I think the problem is that if you've got people who are there and enjoying themselves at a music event or festival or something else, and a very serious protest, if you like, is led, if that's what it was meant to be, that's not the place to do it, in my view. In the same way that if people are watching a sports event or something and then oil protesters turn up, or, you know, there's a time and a place for these things, and that's not it.
Okay.
But I, you know, well done to Banksy, because he's done what he wanted to achieve. We're talking about it. Do I think it's, do I think it's offensive? No. Crass? Yes.
Marina, you were there. You were in Glastonbury.
I was there. I was there for part of the Idol set, actually. I didn't see that part of it, though. What I will say is James Clevely, that from James Clevely is disgusting.
Why?
He knows full well. Like, everyone talks about Glastonbury being this, like, you know, loads of wokies and people on the left and whatever, right? No, hang on. Let me finish. He is implying that crowd were joking and laughing about migrants and people dying in the Channel. He knows full well that crowd would not have been thinking that. Idols sang a song, which is the band who was performing during that stunt, if you want to call it that. They sang a song celebrating migrants. There was a whole installation at Glastonbury called Terminal 1, which is all about drawing attention to migration, celebrating migrants, and actually making people go through the citizenship questions that asylum seekers are expected to fill in. It was drawing attention to it. People make political statements at Glastonbury. This was not about joking. This was about drawing attention to something during a song where Idols was talking about things like he called Farage a fascist, for example, the lead singer. This was a political statement. This wasn't a joke. This was dark. It was poignant, and it made people think about it.
Or crass.
Call it what you want. But the fact is, if you are more offended at this stunt, if you want to call it that, than the actual people who are being demonised, these migrants, they need to get your head wobble.
But even if you make a sort of an art installation out of this, let's say it wasn't this rubber dinghy crowd surfing over the tops of people in a sort of a quite sort of expensive, festival. People have paid a whole load of money to go out and sort of have a fun time. I'm not judging that, but isn't it trivialising what is actually happening to those people?
No, it's provocative.
No, actually, it's trivialising.
Do you know what? It's actually absolutely.
I'm sorry, a bunch of privileged people turning up to a music festival.
How dare you? I'm going to stop you right there.
Dare.
I'm going to stop this. Right, you're telling me Glastonbury costs hundreds of pounds, right? I'm not going to deny that, right?
Privileged people.
A lot of So are people that go to Tenerife and spend hundreds of pounds, are they privileged? Or when they go to Lanzarote,
we are very privileged.
Stop it. People are snobby about Glastonbury because they don't like the people that go there, because it's a festival of hope and celebration of arts and culture and all the things that people on the right don't like.
No, listen, sorry.
So if you're going to be snobby about people spending hundreds of pounds to go to Spain or Greece or wherever, then make sure it's consistent.
No, I'm going to be very consistent. And if you think that I don't care about the arts and what people get accessibility to, think again.
Why are you snobby about
I'm involved in a charity that does music?
There are people that I was there, people from all walks of life, and there are people that it will have been their only holiday. Right, young teenagers who have saved up their money.
There are a lot of people who are,
and people's jumping to conclusions about people that go there
who go there.
Desperate.
No, well, it's not really. It's just. No,
it's just.
Well, you just
lazy.
keep talking, and then we can't get in a view.
Carry on, say what you want to say then.
Thank you very much. As far as I'm concerned, I think that music festivals are great. But let's not forget about the bubble that you're in if you're going. You are in a very privileged bubble, and there is a real problem with migrants and migration, and I think that there is a very internalised view that somehow these people who are desperate and they do need help and they do need different kinds of ways to be processed and dealt with and treated properly and treated with respect. But this is not the way to do it, and it does trivialise the argument, and I think that it's a very internalised way of looking at it.
James, I'm sorry, I live in a London borough where the majority of people were not born in the UK.
Me too.
Am I in a bubble? Am
yes,
I in a bubble?
I think you are.
No, I'm not.
I think you are.
My parents are immigrants. I mix with people from all different walks of life.
So do I.
London is the most multicultural place in the country. And it's
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for migration.
And it's one of the most thriving. We need to change our attitude towards this.
No, but we need to change our attitude towards it. But also, I think there is a very serious point that until or unless we understand who is fueling the problem, who is taking significant money. Look, Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak, amazingly, they agree. And they agree that we have criminal gangs who are working across Europe and people, individuals are being exploited.
All right.
And if we celebrate this kind of thing within our internalised, central London bubble and forget the fact that we've got a real problem and we have to tackle it.
Let me pause you there. Marina, I know you want to come back on that, but let me just pause you there for a second. I want to find out what people are saying at home. Sue has got in touch on Facebook and she says, the crowd did what we should all naturally do as caring human beings. They supported the boat and its occupants without worrying about the consequences. Rimal on Twitter, or X, says, I think it was a wrong and stupid stunt as everybody wants to stop people making these dangerous crossings. Well, let's speak to Elaine in West Lothian now. Elaine, good morning. What do you make of the stunt? Was it trivialising what's happening in the channel, or was it putting it again front and centre in the conversation?
Hi, Alexis. I just think it was a bit pointless. Nobody had a clue what it was about. Yes, we're talking about it now, but at Glastonbury, all these middle-class rich kids...
Oh, Elaine, stop reading everything. Stop believing everything you read in the rags.
Virtue signalling. I could never afford to go to Glastonbury.
Have you gone on holiday, Elaine?
Could never afford.
Elaine, have you spent hundreds of pounds to go on holiday before in your life?
No, I haven't. I've never been abroad in my life.
OK, fine. You're an exception. But there are many people that spend hundreds of pounds to go on holiday, criticising people who spend hundreds of pounds and go to Glastonbury. It's just snobbery.
Well, I can't afford to go anywhere.
And that's a shame, and you should be able to afford to go on holiday.
But Elaine, you mentioned the word that you think I think, did you say it was virtue signalling? What do you mean by that?
Well, they could be doing something else to help the migrants. They could have made it about the kids that have died in the sea. Mm-hmm. But no, they just threw a boat on top of people's heads.
You'll find, Elaine, most people just want safe passage for people who desperately need to come here. We actually don't want open borders, which is what, again, the right will tell you. We don't want open borders. We want regulated borders. We want safe passage for the people who need it the most,
but
so that they don't have to make these crossings.
Safe passage.
No, we don't. We have safe passage for Afghanistan and Ukraine.
And there are a lot of people who are using those boats to come over because they are economic migrants. We know that, and we also know that if you're trying to tell me that if people are leaving France, which is a safe country, and coming here, they want to come here for very specific reasons.
The majority of people who claim asylum get it.
Yes.
Which means they're not economic.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's right.
OK.
So, anyway, all right, we could continue that discussion for many a day.
Elaine, thank you for your call and your point of view. Let's take another. Sylvia is in Durham. Good morning, Sylvia. What would you like to say?
Yeah, good morning to you all. Well, I don't think Banksy did it to cause offence. I think he's just gotten it a little bit wrong. It was the wrong place to do it. And as far as what that lady's just said about these rich kids going to Glastonbury, I think that is offensive, because I'm from the northeast and I have many friends who work extremely hard all year just to have that week at Glastonbury. So I think, yeah, Banksy got it wrong, but he's not an offensive person. I think the people at Glastonbury just was the wrong place at the wrong time, basically. I don't think it was offensive. I think it was just a little bit silly. As far as the refugees are concerned, my heart always goes out to them, because there's a lot of people, in whatever walk of life we go in, we will get a selection of not very nice people, but a bigger selection of extremely nice people. And for those who are coming across to this country, just want peace and harmony. And I feel sorry for those people.
Sylvia, thank you for your call. Thank you, Sylvia. Maya's got in touch from London. Maya, good morning to you. What would you like to say? Do you agree with Sylvia that perhaps it was making a point, but I think James also made that point as well, perhaps a bit crass, maybe the wrong place to do it? Maya, can you hear us?
Hi, Alexia, sorry.
Hi.
Morning. Yeah, I just want to say I feel like, you know, James is being really unfair to basically the protesters, people at Glastonbury. You know, I find the attitude towards people at festivals to be really kind of upsetting sometimes. You know, everyone just gets branded as, oh, they're privileged, this and that. At the end of the day, these are real people that care about these issues. You're allowed to care about more than one thing. You're allowed to enjoy yourself, maybe go to a music festival, but also care about issues such as immigration and the environment, sustainability. You don't have to put people in these camps.
Yes, there's a difference between caring about things and then also understanding the privileged bubble within which you exist. And it sounds like that you're within that.
People could be migrants themselves. You don't know people's lives. It is lazy. It is very lazy. You don't know these people's lives. You don't know what the messaging behind Idol's music is. They literally, as Marina said, they talk about immigration a lot. They literally talk about their own.
I think they do, and I think some of the things that they sang about were actually deeply offensive to many people in this country. And I think that's part of the problem, is that people will use this kind of platform in order to make either offensive or, in my view, crass situations. And look, I think I'm sorry, but I think some of the attitudes which are there, they're not going to solve the problems. And I genuinely think where we'd all agree is that there are people who are in the middle of this who, for whatever reason, put their lives at risk to get on those boats. But there are gangs who are operating who shouldn't be, making huge amounts of money out of this. We've got borders and patrols that aren't necessarily dealing with these things in the right way. And we also have a system that is way too slow, costing all of us way too much money. But that protest and the nonsense that goes on at festivals...
Are you trying to genuinely say that music should not be a platform for political opinion?
No, didn't say that.
Well, what's the problem then? What is the problem?
My problem is that I think that this particular stunt, if you like, is crass. And I also think that sometimes people who go to music festivals and get very excited, so for example, they get very excited about the environment, and then have you seen the mess and the...
Can I say something?
Before we open another conversation, last word to you, Marina, and then we have to move on.
OK, finally, people know that Glastonbury spend thousands, if not millions, doing a clean-up operation. They look after the land. They make sure there's a break every now and then so that the land can breathe. We know it's looked after.
After they've ruined it.
All right. I have to bring it to a close. Thank you both.